Is Chris Cox in the room? Oh, there you are. You're tricking me. You're coming from the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess you know Chris Cox, right? If you don't, Chris Cox. Chris, it's great to have you here. Chris is going to talk with us today about past, present, and future of two-way politics, and trust me, he knows what he's talking about. Give him a listen. Chris, it's yours. You want the handout?
I'll do this.
You're good with
Thanks.
this one? You bet.
Thanks, Mark. How's everybody doing? Powerful speakers today, huh? Everybody having a good time? That's great. I am too. Before I get started, I want to thank Alan Gottlieb and Adam Kraut for bringing us all together for this year's Gun Rights Policy Conference. Thank you for your leadership and for keeping this thing going again and again, year after year. The Second Amendment Foundation shows us that the courtroom can be a battlefield. And every ruling they secure doesn't just win a case, it strengthens liberty for every American. Now, I remember well how big of a pain in the butt it was to pull these events off. So let's give Adam and Alan and Lauren and the whole team at SAF a round of applause. Great job, guys. For me, this conference really is like a Freedom's family reunion. It's great to see so many friends here. It was good to see A.W.R. Hawkins, who always speaks the truth in full auto but never suppressed. I've had the pleasure of working with Tom Taylor and Kenyon Gleason for longer than I can remember. These guys are quiet champions, but they're champions. It's always good to be in the room with you. Thank you, guys. I also want to thank my friend and recognize Doug Hamlin, the CEO of the National Rifle Association. If anyone could have walked away from the NRA and never looked back, it was me, but I'm not, and you shouldn't either. Doug Hamlin's a good man. He inherited a mess, but he's the right man at the right time to rebuild that organization with honor, because that's exactly what you'd expect from a former Marine. Doug, good to see you, my friend. As Americans, sometimes we think we produce the only badass fighters, but Christian Craighead proves that's not always the case. I'm glad he's here today. I'm really happy he's living in America. I'm not going to sing happy birthday to Christian because there's not enough security to protect me from the ongoing assault that would happen, but he recently celebrated his 50th birthday. Christian, it's great to see you. Happy birthday, belated. And before I move on, I want to pause and reflect on someone we all miss who others have talked about today. I met Charlie Kirk when he was about 19 years old. He traveled with Donald Trump Jr. and me on some political events we did together. I watched him build Turning Point USA from the ground up. I had him speak at some of the events I hosted, and I was proud to speak at some of his. People have talked a lot about Charlie's beautiful family, and they should. They've talked a lot about his faith, and they should. But what hasn't been talked about enough is Charlie's unwavering support for the Second Amendment. The left tried to take a sentence or two out of context, but what they won't tell you is how consistently and how proudly Charlie defended our right to keep and bear arms. I can tell you firsthand because he used to text me clips when he'd go on national TV and defend the Second Amendment. He'd write, "I've got your back, brother," and he did. He had all of our backs. And the hard truth is some coward murdered him for one reason, because he was effective, because he made a difference. But a couple of random things about Charlie you might not know. He was tall, like 6'4", 6'5", and he was a hell of a good high school basketball player. And Charlie was really, really funny. So let's celebrate all of it. Let's remember not just the tragedy, but the joy, the faith, and the courage he brought to this fight. Charlie's life is a reminder of the stakes in this battle. None of us know how long we'll be here or how many chances we'll get to make a difference. But we do know this: while we're here, we're called on to speak up, stand out, and do our part. And that's what I tried to do when I first went to Washington. People used to ask me what I did for a living, and I said, I do the Lord's work in the devil's city. And together we took that fight to the bad guys. The results of that fight didn't just change elections or the makeup of Congress or win one or two important court cases. They changed the course of American freedom and American history. Today we live in the post-Bruin world, where freedom is expanding and our rights are finally being recognized for what they've always been: God-given, individual, and undeniable. But let me take you back to when I started on Capitol Hill 33 years ago. There was no Bruin, no Heller, no McDonald. The U.S. Supreme Court, the very institution entrusted to defend liberty, didn't even recognize the right of an American to keep a handgun in their own home for self-defense. That's where we were. And to this young kid, it made no sense to me. Growing up in West Tennessee, hunting and shooting with my father and 3 brothers, owning firearms was normal. Hell, I took my .410 shotgun to 4th grade show and tell. True story. And it was as normal as my buddy who took his granddad's pocket watch. So when I moved to Washington after college and started on Capitol Hill as a legislative staffer, I had no real understanding of just how organized the opposition was against us. But it quickly became clear in 1993 when a 5-day waiting period passed, and in 1994 when they banned semi-autos. Many of you are old enough to remember Senator Dianne Feinstein, who went on 60 Minutes and said, quote, "If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, Mr. and Mrs. America turned them all in, I would have done it," end of quote. That's the mindset we were up against. And let's not forget, there was a serious mainstream political discussion about banning all handguns in America. Back in the early 90s, 43% of Americans supported that ban. Almost half the country. Imagine that. When I started, there was just one state with constitutional carry. Just one. Today, there are 29 and hopefully soon 30. There's still work to do, but restoration is underway. But by the late 1990s, gun makers were under siege. They were being sued across the country, blamed for crimes they didn't commit. And some people remember many were forced to close their doors forever, and others came close. Today, they enjoy well-deserved legal protections, so they can focus on producing the tools that secure our liberty, what FDR famously called the great arsenal of democracy. Like our carry laws, more work is needed because our opponents continue to abuse the legal system. But the attacks on freedom have never come from one place. It's like whack-a-mole with these people. When the lawsuits failed, they tried other tactics, like Operation Choke Point. Bureaucrats in Washington tried to use the banking system to strangle gun manufacturers, ammunition makers, and gun dealers out of business. No law passed. There was no debate in Congress, just a quiet backdoor effort to make it impossible for lawful businesses to survive. That wasn't just bad policy. That was viewpoint discrimination at its worst. The message was clear. If you don't think like them, if you don't share their values, they'll use every lever of power to shut you down. It was a preview of the cancel culture that would later spread into every part of American life. And let's be honest, that battle isn't over either. We see it today with banks, payment processors, and tech platforms who believe the Second Amendment's beneath them. But there's good news. We're now building financial tools of our own. What my friend Jim Giudice and our friends at Cordova and Public Square are doing is critical for the future of firearms financial security and protection. If you don't know Jim, stick around. I know he's going to talk later, or catch up with him at a break and learn about the fight they're taking to the big banks and beyond. And it's not just about banking and credit. Look at Grab-A-Gun. I was honored to be asked to serve on the board with Donald Trump Jr., Colion Noir, Blake Masters, and some others. And the easiest thing to do would have been to keep this private. Go raise private money and don't deal with the headaches of the public markets. But that was not the message the freedom movement needed to send. Taking Grab-A-Gun public was more than just about business. It was about standing up and saying, screw you to the Wall Street elites who look down on our values. That was a statement the markets needed to hear. But we still face a mainstream media that despises us and misrepresents us at every turn. We still have Hollywood scripts being written that demonize gun ownership. And colleges and universities are still trying to brainwash our kids. But the politics are moving in our direction. We can all feel it. That transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened because you demanded it, because you made gun rights a political litmus test, because you proved that freedom matters more than slick political talking points. It wasn't politicians who saved the Second Amendment. It wasn't lobbyists or lawyers or consultants. It was the people. It was you. It was citizens who turned out to vote, who showed up at town halls, who wrote letters, made phone calls, and reminded their elected officials they don't rule us, they work for us. It was moms and dads, truck drivers and veterans, small business owners and teachers, everyday Americans who fought to keep this country free. It was your passion, your persistence, and yes, sometimes your anger that changed the course of history. But let me be clear, this fight is not over. The people who hate this freedom, the ones who dream to disarm America, they haven't gone away. They wake up every day determined to destroy the very things that make this country unique, that make her great. They will lie, they will cheat, and yes, they will steal. And if we rest, if we get complacent, they will win. Because freedom doesn't survive on autopilot. It can't survive a fractured, divided community of gun owners. Winning isn't always pretty, and it's never a total win. Heller, McDonald, Bruin, landmark decisions, but problems still exist. The Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act passed 20 years ago, and it was supposed to end reckless lawsuits against gun manufacturers, but they continue. Self-defense is an ongoing battle, and the truth is that no state passed constitutional carry until they had already had permit carry. Eliminating the $200 poll tax on certain NFA items was the most significant win in 20 years, but it wasn't complete reform. Like it or not, few congressmen are as pro-gun as Attorney General Austin Knudsen. That's political reality. So we need to build on incremental wins. Football is a game of inches, and the legislative process has been compared to sausage making. We want perfection. We demand perfection. But Congress has never legislated perfection on anything. So we must accept that political reality and stand together. Freedom survives when we stand shoulder to shoulder, when we put differences aside and focus on what matters most, protecting our rights, defending our Constitution, and ensuring the next generation inherits liberty, not regret. I think about the fight not just in terms of politics or court cases, but in moments, like when my son killed his first deer a few years ago with a suppressed AR chambered in .300 blackout. That memory reminds me why this matters, so our kids inherit not just our traditions, but the freedoms that make them possible. Friends, we've come too far to turn back now. And before I finish, I want to say something I wish I'd said more often in my former life. When I led the NRA's Institute for Legislative Action, I used to tell staff all the time, I don't care about credit. I care about winning. Everyone can take credit after the fact. And while I meant it, the truth is, I should have done a better job thanking other leaders along the way. I didn't intentionally ignore them. I just had my hands full. But it's never too late. I may no longer have as big a megaphone, but I'm grateful to have this microphone to say it clearly. Alan Gottlieb has played a significant role in the restoration of this freedom. Alan, thank you very much. And while we still have work to do, I'm confident that Adam Kraut and his team will take Alan's mantle and build upon it. Together, let's finish the work for our children, for our grandchildren, and always for freedom. Thank you very much. Thank you.